Amazing. Long time no see. Thank you all so much for being here today. And I think that as we step into this panel, Rob did such a beautiful job setting us up. But for the last year plus, we've been hearing a lot about tools. And tools are great. They're kind of singular things. But I think what we really want to talk about on this panel is the transition from tools to systems. And kind of how AI is becoming an intelligence layer that empowers entire marketing ecosystems, not just one-off outputs or single model calls and things like that. And so as we step into this panel, I'll direct my first question to Arjun, who has the distinction of not only being the head of partnerships for Fireworks, but also for designing what I think is the coolest piece of corporate swag I've ever seen with your code. And I do want to talk about like the intelligence layer and the shift from standalone tools to fully integrated systems. So, Arjun, you and Fireworks, how are you seeing developers and brands move beyond single model calls, single outputs, to these production-grade, always-on systems that can power entire marketing workflows?
Yeah, for sure. So, we have Fireworks. We work with some of the most innovative AI researchers, AI teams in the world, with AI native companies, digital native companies, and enterprise companies in the brand space. And quickly, they're evolving beyond these single model calls to compound model systems across audio, video, language, embedding models. And so, as these companies start to evolve very rapidly, we at Fireworks are building the infrastructure behind the intelligent context layer. As part of that, it's important for these always-on systems to be able to have high speed, low latency, very strong uptime. It's almost as important as the model quality. I think secondly is the flexibility of models. So we are able to serve hundreds of different models across audio, vision models for analyzing creative content, audio models for in real time to present for customer interactions. And so quickly having that model flexibility, I think is core to more advanced systems that we're seeing. And then third is using your proprietary data. So we're starting to see customers who are going beyond just single prompts to building their own models. So customizing their own models, custom model engines, using their own proprietary data for fine-tuning for brand voice, and then activating that beyond just single prompts. And we're continuously seeing stronger desire for custom model development for these enterprise applications as they are, going in front of their customer interactions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we at Silverside have seen this firsthand, not just in our own usage, but also in all of our clients who are starting to get, this inference layer and lowering latency is not just about increased speed and kind of like, oh great, it's faster, but it also saves like crazy amounts of money long term as well, and increases ROI. And so it's incredibly interesting to see what you're doing and how this is impacting businesses directly. And speaking of firsthand kind of accounts here and engagement, I'll move to Shane, who I get the pleasure of working with very consistently across many of our clients with AIR, and who also has the distinction of pulling off an April Fool's joke that sent everyone at Silverside into a tailspin that he'd acquired Dropbox. I think coming from the creative world, I, as I mentioned, kind of grew up in my early career coming in the creative agency world and got to see those creative systems and processes firsthand. And they tend to be profoundly manual. They tend to be kind of not built for speed and scale. There's a lot of layers. I was a Google Slides super user for all feedback. And so when you think about AIR and its role in kind of this infrastructural layer, how does it transform those traditional creative processes into something that modern marketers can use to maximize their impact?
Yeah, it's funny. I talk to so many teams on the marketing and creative side where it feels like all of us feel like we're still in the dark days. We're shipping hard drives across the country to get a campaign done, and that's the reality of creative work. To your point, Johnny, it's been very manual and tedious. The logistics of collecting, approving, and sharing content have really taken over the work and have kept us away from dynamic change in the space. And when you look at the problem, I think what's fascinating is that in many ways it's a data problem that's been solved in all other areas of the enterprise. Anytime you have a scaled and complex data problem inside of a business, you end up buying a system of record to structure that chaos. Imagine your sales team running without Salesforce, or your engineering team running without GitHub. And for creative work, there hasn't been a purpose-built system of record that's been developed to help centralize the work, to organize and structure the data, and then to help you scale it. And for the better part of a decade now, the team at Air and I have been working on just that. We call it a creative operations system. And the intention is to do two things. It's to really introduce memory into your creative process. So it helps structure the data, it organizes it for you. We use a number of enrichment models for facial recognition, transcription search, natural language search through that information. So if you want to find a video shoot from 5 years ago, you just search on Google. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we help you with scale. Today inside an organization, businesses are trying to create and distribute content at increasing levels of complexity and scale. And what we found is the lion's share of that work is not 0 to 1 content creation. It's not that magical beginning part, which is where a lot of the attention is in the space right now. It's actually on the hey, I need this asset to work for every single place I need to distribute the ad. Or I need to vary the ad copy for a bunch of different languages. It's all these repeatable workflows, and that's what we've introduced in the product experience. So, I'm really excited for once you have your data structured, which is what the opportunity our customers have, what they can do with it.
Awesome. One of the things that I'm curious about, and we hear this from our clients pretty often, is amazing, I can do all of these things. But as you mentioned, I think maybe not the Stone Ages, but some of these people are quite literally shipping hard drives, as you mentioned, and we've been the benefactors of that and gotten long-term shipping hard drives from the UK and things like that. And so when you're thinking about what it takes for these clients to step in very practically, what does that process look like, and how can they, beyond kind of the it's going to completely change my systems and how I work, what can they expect to see in terms of what that new process looks like after they've stepped in?
Yeah. And then I would love to talk to folks after, but I feel like most CMOs and creative directors would, I think, agree with me in the reality of they have no idea how much content is being created in their organization, how that content is performing, and where all it's being distributed. That's sort of a 6-week question for an analyst today for the average marketing team. And so, when you look at how they get to a place where that data is structured and those insights are presented in front of them on a day-to-day basis, there has to be an acknowledgement that it's both software and a service. At Air, over the course of the last 8 years, we've never charged migration fees, we've never charged for service hours. And one of the reasons we do that is we believe that digital transformation, which is fundamentally what organizations are going through today, shouldn't have a price tag on it for the people, the software obviously does. And so, for us, tactically, we can migrate in customers' assets from anywhere in a matter of seconds and minutes, depending on the level of scale. We can integrate with their creation tools, with their distribution sources, and then pull that data inside of our platform. Again, in the matter, it's a few clicks of a button. But getting your organization to recognize the power and impact of that transformation is challenging. We had a discussion with a customer last week where the marketing team was worried what would happen if the creatives knew which ads were performing the best.
That's a great question.
This is like the silos of information that have been created in the marketing and creative world. And at Air, what we've found is that propagating these insights across your business can lead to an immense amount of transformation on an ongoing day-to-day basis. That organization, as an example right now, has now started to train agents based off of their performance data on air to go and execute net new at creative to push that back out. And look, our perspective at Air is that for visual-driven work, creative work, as I like to call it, humans will always be in the loop. And some parts of that work will be more automated, like at creative, and other parts of that won't, like your next great campaign. And so our effort is to support as much as we can the technology in the direction.
That's awesome. And kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit, as I said in every class I took in high school, I kind of want to go up one more layer on the infrastructural layer and talk to you a little bit, Tadas, around what we think the marketing organization of the future is, right? And I think that we've kind of talked about the inference layer and the infrastructure, then the creative process. But from your perspective, what does a fully intelligent, adaptive marketing process and ecosystem actually look like for a brand that's trying to stand out in an increasingly competitive market where there is so much content and the barrier to entry in that market is significantly lower?
Thank you, Johnny, and you guys. Well, it's going to look less like building campaigns, but more building systems. And you know that it's an Easter time now, and the campaign should have some kind of Easter tagline. You know that well in advance. You don't need to actually work on the creative 2 weeks before now to prepare for this. So the way that this looks like in practice is that the future organizations are going to be focusing on building marketing systems that encode the brand itself, encode all the guidelines, encode all the plans for the future, be able to adjust those on the fly, but then let AI decide who to show what and when and where. A good example for that is dynamic product ads, which actually is a very popular ad type right now, probably one of the most efficient ways to advertise via digital channels. And there, e-commerce brands present all of their products at once to all of the channels, and then the channels figure out, for example, Instagram, which product to show to which person. So if you scroll through your feed and you see those little product ads, actually every single one of them is adjusted to you to be of maximum relevance. So now you have your hero video, you have your hero creative, but it's actually shadowed by this hyper-personalized product experience. And so when that kind of thinking starts to come into play, you can no longer do those by hand. Imagine you have 10,000 SKUs. There's no way you can make 10,000 ads every single day. We make at Genus AI over 1 million every single day for brands. And some of them, tens of thousands a day. And the thing is, they are extremely precise. These are luxury companies, apparel, beauty, cosmetics, home goods. These are brands that really carry their brand legacy. They really want to say something. So this is not kind of automatic and living a little bit more in that AI slop category. This is highly curated. So being able to have the oversight, the control, and the scale is really where it's going. But it really starts to get interesting as Shane was saying just now, that when you connect performance to the actual process, when you really close the loop, where you have creative ideas, you automate the full feedback loop, and then you actually see the outcome from it. That is imminently possible, and that's, I think, where everything is moving now.
Can I respectfully disagree with myself?
Sure, please. Yeah.
I think, and I would love your perspective on this. I find that, when you think about the outputs of these models, they're always correct, but they're rarely right. And what I mean by that is that, most of the output of a insert here generative model, ignoring how much context you throw into it, is going to be something that is aligned with the prompt, the context, the set of instructions. And oftentimes what breaks through is something that felt like a poll, felt like an outside idea, felt like something that was contentious. Johnny referenced earlier, we made a post last week on April Fool's Day. laughing about this. It wasn't really we treated it somewhat seriously, but we acted like we bought Dropbox. That wasn't like a prompt sitting there asking Chad or Claude what a great April Fool's Day joke would be. And that ended up having 200,000 views on social and really blew up for us a little bit. But I ask because you see and I see all of this information being poured now into systems and models that are running and executing. How do you keep nuance in the process, or how do you recommend that to customers?
It really depends on the brand itself and the brand DNA. You actually can encode that kind of volatility in the recommendations. The teams that are involved in that feedback will approve designs that are a little bit more out there, or have the specific kind of spice that they want to have at their brand. In fact, all this automation actually liberates the teams to be able to truly connect to what their brand is trying to say. Previously, they would be stuck with maybe a flight of 12 statics for the campaign, and what can you express there, right? So the velocity allows for identifying those more unique components that teams bring in. But at the same time, you have leading apparel brands where 70% of their digital budget is going towards the dynamic product ads, where they're just making sure that whatever their beautiful dresses are, they look incredible on TikTok, they look incredible on Instagram, they look incredible on Pinterest, they look incredible on Reddit, they look incredible on Google Merchant Center, and then these are all different looks. And now suddenly you multiply 40,000 SKUs by 5 times 6, 7 markets, and you're outputting hundreds of thousands of assets.
Yeah, I think what's fascinating about creative work is that it is two things at the same time. It starves for perfection, and it is deeply subjective. And I think that there's arenas like direct response ad creative, where you can get to more objectivity. But that is such a narrow slice of all of the things that marketing and creative teams have to do on an ongoing basis. And it happens to be the one where there's more objectivity than many others. And so, I think it's fascinating, the world of potential that you're seeing. We at AIR, no industry takes up 10%, more than 10% of our revenue. We just talked to the Bank of Guatemala yesterday, and it's fascinating because every company around the globe is becoming a media company, all pushing out content at dynamic levels of scale that I've never seen before, having been in the space for almost a decade. So, it's just interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It is amazing. What you've hit on, both of you, is the importance of subjectivity and human creativity in this process, but also the importance of scale and showing up in so many more places, in so many more ways, in more markets. And I think you're exactly right. Well, I agree, and also disagree with some things for both of you, which I'd like to talk about afterwards. But in the interest of time, I want to do kind of a speed round and direct this question to Arjun here, which is, obviously here we have 3 layers represented. We have the infra layer, we have the creative ops layer, we have the vertical application layer, right? And I think that as brands are looking to integrate all 3 of these layers, they're looking to get the net benefit from everything while it's integrated. So as you think about how these layers come together, especially as the infra layer where you work with both of the others, what does that look like, and where can brands get kind of the most value?
Yeah, our goal is to abstract the infrastructure layer to make it seamless, so that way we can empower our teams to leverage the technology as fast as possible. And so we do that by working with AI natives, digital natives who build on top of us, but ultimately we want to abstract the time spent managing the infrastructure, the GPUs, custom model development, because that's highly valuable time that can be spent working with your product teams, your creative teams to help orchestrate and build systems that are fine-tuned for your brand voice. So from the infrastructure side, really focusing on abstracting that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm getting the nod, so I'm going to ask one more question. I'll break the rules here a little bit, but I think what we want to come away with here are really actionable insights for people who are looking to build their own intelligence layer, right? And this is increasingly more important for the modern marketer. So we've heard about the vertical integration and the importance of scale. We've heard about the creativity and the process and how that comes together. along with the importance of scale. And then we've heard about the speed and inference and how that comes together. But if you were to leave everyone in this room with one piece of actionable advice as they seek to build out this infrastructure, what would you encourage people to do or not do or whatever it is? And we'll start on this side with Tadas and then we'll work our way down the line.
So currently, if you have something that is very objective, where you can measure, evaluate, it's a good place to focus on because you can absolutely nail that, absolutely make it extremely efficient and very powerful right now, and then work through levels of abstraction. So if you're selling anything physical or services that can be articulated, definitely look into these dynamic product ads. Make sure that your product catalog is in order. Whatever you're selling, that it's not just images, videos, but all the metadata. The future of discovery is going to be really reliant on that metadata traveling together with creative. What is it selling? Which product is it showcasing? What other products this is good for? What kind of weather conditions? All that information is now becoming part of an ad and lives within your product catalog. So if you can just lock that in and make that extremely efficient, and then work on all the other less objective components, then you'll be on the front end of this.
Let's see. I feel like everybody's going to hear a lot of slop talk this week. You're going to hear a lot of garbage in, garbage out. And I think my recommendation to all of you, ignoring error, would be to build the trash can so that you know where to put the garbage and structure it. And what I mean by that really is there's an immense amount of power for your organizations and how you market and the type of creative you build if you build a system of context. If you build a place where the data is centralized and structured, and I would highly, highly, highly recommend you spend the time and energy to do that. Rather than just trying to race to get, a one-propped, one-shot video or photo that might produce some results once. Imagine the transformation that can happen.
Yeah, I think for us, like our POV is, we don't want you renting the intelligence, right? We want you owning the intelligence. So activating the data, activating your brand voice in a way where you own the intelligence rather than rent the intelligence.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you all so much for being up here with me. This is really fabulous.